welcome to the QB Happy Hour. We are happy to have you join us today. We have Rewind that will be sharing backup options, and we are excited to get started. So I am Liz Scott, and many of you know me, but I have a practice in Oklahoma, and I'm like so many of you. I am a practitioner that serves clients with QuickBooks needs. And they come to me and they say that they've got some cleanup that needs to happen. And so I want to do a backup before I start that cleanup. So that's going to be a big part of the conversation today is, talking about the backup before you do cleanups. Or the other thing that I do a lot of is integrations. And so the other thing that's best practices, as we know, get a backup before you start those integrations. And so this is really big news in my world. So I like to be able to have a go back to point. So as somebody who does a lot of app consulting and as a consultant who does a lot of cleanup, being able to have a restore point is really very important. Heather, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I am very much like Liz. I have a consulting practice in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, where I focus on many of the same things that Liz does, doing integrations, technology consulting, and coaching. And then I also have a bookkeeping and tax firm called Back Office Ally that just launched in December. So I got a lot going on right now. And I talked about this back in September when we were doing the backup episode, Liz, that I actually lost all my QuickBooks Online data accidentally when I was working on a migration through QuickBooks Online Accountant. And I actually had done that purge. I created a new QuickBooks company, imported the chart of accounts, said, I want to do this again. So I used the purge utility, and there was a little glitch in the cache, and it actually deleted my company, Your Books, in my QuickBooks Online account. So at the time, I had ChronoBooks as a backup for my own company, and I was able to restore back into it. So it is important. I literally looked at my screen and said, what? I did one of those. I'm like, what? And then I was like, no, that can't be right. Refresh. What?
I have a question. Was the word actually right? Is that the only word you used?
No, but that's the word we're going to use today, Kelly.
Gotcha.
That's the word we're using today. But anyway, luckily I had a backup. I knew that I should have a backup, and I had it. So it is really important. And that's why this episode is so important to all of us, is because we need this utility for ourselves and for our clients. And so thanks again. But anyway, that's me. I'm Heather. And I deleted my QuickBooks file. Yep.
It happens, right? So I think it's important to share that even as app consultants and even as professionals, we do odd stuff.
We oops, as you say, Liz.
I know, we totally oops. Yep. Don't mean to, but it happens.
Right.
And so we also want to, as Happy Hour, we want to give a special thank you to our Champagne sponsor, Right Networks. And so Right Networks is the leading cloud hosting provider for accounting professionals. And so many of us know them and are using them as our hosting solution for our QuickBooks Desktop clients, but they also have some really cool things that Heather and I are going to be demoing on Happy Hour. And so Transaction Pro is one of those tools that many of us are already using. So we're really excited to say that coming soon, we're going to be demoing Transaction Pro. And then also, some of you may know or may not know that Audify is going to be an app that we're going to be sharing some information about. So kind of an app-to-app integration.
And some Right Networks news that you probably have already heard of, but maybe you haven't, is that now they're also hosting tax software. So if you're a Lacert user or a Pro Series user, you can now host those desktop tax applications on Right Networks as well. So that's exciting news as well.
Yep, very exciting. So we want to say thank you for today's sponsor, Rewind. So I like your tagline a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is your official tagline, but when I found this, I was like, man, this is perfect. So add peace of mind in minutes, add Rewind. So I thought that was great.
I love that.
As accountants, I I don't know that we're always really great with marketing. So many of us reach out to a marketer to be able to say, hey, help us with our messaging. And I thought this one was pretty spot on. So well done.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So Mike, I'd like to just, give an introduction here, and you might want to fill everybody in, because we'd like to be able to say throughout this conversation, Happy Hour is really just conversation based. We want to be able to let, you have the chance to, at any point that you say, hey, I want to jump in and I want to say something, you can, and we want everybody to know who you are. So Mike Potter, you're the CEO and co-founder of Rewind. And is there anything that you want to share?
Absolutely. Thanks for that intro, Liz. It says there I'm a serial entrepreneur, which for those of you who've heard that before, really just means that I failed at a lot of previous businesses. That's what being a serial entrepreneur is, right? I've got a lot of experience doing software development, product management, product marketing. I've worked at companies of all sizes, so as small as Rewind when we were just 4 people, and as large as Adobe when they were a few thousand people. Rewind itself is about 4 years, 4.5 years old. We started backing up Shopify about 4 years ago, and we've expanded to back up BigCommerce as well as QuickBooks Online. We were recently named one of Canada's companies to watch in the Deloitte Fast 50. We've been listed on a couple of other awards in Canada. We've been named BigCommerce Partner of the Year this year, and we're looking forward to sort of introducing Rewind to everybody from the accounting space. We've been doing QuickBooks accounting for just over 3 years. So it's about 3 years old, Rewind, for QuickBooks Online. It's got thousands of customers all over the world, and the company as a whole has over 10,000 customers in over 100 countries throughout the world.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Mike, that you are doing more than just backups for QuickBooks. And so that's something that a lot of viewers may not know. And so you mentioned Shopify, and you also mentioned, I'm just going to pull your website over here real quick. So you mentioned, if I come down here to apps, okay, there we go. So Shopify, you mentioned BigCommerce, QuickBooks Online, WooCommerce, and then Trello and Magento. And then I also noticed that you're talking about, you had a question on here, and I'm not seeing it right now, but you had a question. It was saying, hey, are these backups that you would be interested? Oh, there it is. Pipedrive and Zendesk. So should we build it? So those are really.
So I'll just say, if you build it, we will come.
Which one would you build first?
Heather's going to say Pipedrive.
I'm going to say Pipedrive.
Heather's going to say Pipe. Heather's going to say Pipedrive.
Yeah, we use Pipedrive as well. Big fan of it, actually.
Me too.
I think, a lot of people, so first of all, SaaS backups is a thing. There's a whole bunch of competitors in our space. Generally, we don't have a lot of competitors with Shopify, BigCommerce, and QuickBooks Online. A lot of companies have focused on backing up Google Docs and Office 365 for companies. Salesforce data as well is really popular, which is why Pipedrive's on the list, because we don't want to do Salesforce, but we'd like to look at the second and third sort of most popular CRMs, and that's where Pipedrive comes from. And I think most people unfortunately just assume that, hey, it's in the cloud, it's all protected. I don't need to back it up, right? That's the assumption that most people go in. So our vision is, we want one place that you can go to that backs up all of your cloud services, gives you the same interface, the same experience, regardless of what application you're using. So whether you're on Shopify or BigCommerce or QuickBooks or Xero, or Magento or WooCommerce or Trello or Asana or whatever, we want to be backing it all up.
Well, and we just had somebody in chat say 17 hats. So
I vote for 17 hats as well.
Okay. Well, so
I'm gonna have to look up 17 hats.
Okay, well, Mike, it's a workflow tool. Actually, it does so many different things. So I'm sure that if you ask this group, that the chat's going to keep coming at you. And so
yeah, that's good. I see Monday there. Monday.com's on our list as well. Asana, Trello, those we've talked to.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So yeah, the answers will probably keep rolling in.
Love it. I love that feedback. We want to know what, I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of SaaS services that people are using out there. For us, it's just a matter of prioritizing which one we should be doing next.
Yeah.
Right. Well, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say that Caleb Jenkins, who's a really awesome guy in our space, reached out to me, and he has a list that I'll be forwarding along to you too, Mike.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. We've been talking to Caleb.
Can you? Oh, you've talked to him already?
Yeah, I think we've been chatting over Twitter.
Oh,
I saw
perfect.
MailChimp was up there as well. We did do MailChimp. We were backing MailChimp up. We launched that in 2019 last year. We've actually put the pause on it for now. MailChimp, we had a partnership with them and they actually discontinued the partnership. So we've paused that. So if you're looking to back up MailChimp, you should be emailing MailChimp and letting them know that you'd like us to work with them, because that would really help us out.
Nice.
Well, that's good to know. Well, I'm going to keep on moving through it because we have so much to cover today.
We do.
Okay. And so I also want to introduce Kelly Parks. So many of us already know you, Kelly, but I want to also say, I've got Sassy Accounting Coach on here, but you want to also introduce what else you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm a bookkeeper. I think the memo's gone out. I love being a bookkeeper, and I rationalized my business last year, and I'm completely cloud-based now. And really love working with my clients. They're awesome. I work with some app partners because I want to make sure that we're going in the direction that accounting professionals want, not necessarily the direction that developers want. And I think that, I do coaching, right? Sassy Accounting. I do cloud accounting coaching because I want everybody to love it as much as I do. So I work with accounting professionals to kind of adopt cloud technology, but I really only work on the efficiency side of things. I'm not I really want them to work efficiently in the cloud and love it. So that's the summary.
That's awesome.
Oh, and I'm a conference junkie.
And a conference junkie. Oh my gosh. I know we love our conferences. We just come back so rejuvenated. I love it.
Yeah.
So we're just going to keep on going. So safeguarding your data. That is what we're talking about. And the big thing that happened this week or last week was Chromebooks will now only be available in QuickBooks Online Advanced. So that's the big news. What do we do? And so the the options here that we're looking for is how do we move forward? And so we heard from our peers. And so Patricia on our Facebook group, she said, hey, what do we do? I'm looking for something that's an alternative. And she wasn't the only one. But there's our peers that are alike us that are doing consulting work, that are doing cleanup work, that app integrations, that are saying, okay, we've got some true concerns and looking for options, and they feel this responsibility that they've got to find an alternative. So that's the conversation today.
Yeah, and I would just say, from that email, one thing is if you are a Chromebooks user, you've got to remember you've got to go and download all your data because it is going to be deleted on February 25th. So definitely get into into Rewind. But you also want to make sure that you've got all that data that had been backed up before. So.
Yep. So.
The other thing to think about, like Intuit is making that option available to their QuickBooks Pro users or whatever the plan is on the highest level plan there. Generally speaking, you should be backing up access to the data as well. So I know one of the things that we hear from a lot of our customers is they like the protection that Rewind gives in case they're locked out of the platform for some reason. Right? And it's very unlikely that Shopify or BigCommerce or Intuit's going to lock you out of the platform. But if it does, you should have access to your data, all this data and all this work that you've done over that time. So even for your most advanced users who are on that plan, who have access to Chronobooks, you're now got all of your data in one spot. Your backup and your source data are controlled by the same company. So it's a bit like I've been posting on Twitter. It's a bit like backing up your hard drive to your hard drive, right? Like your backup is now in the same spot that your source data is. So if something happens to it, it's not really a backup. So even though they do make it available, the fact that it's owned by one company is not the best idea from a security standpoint. You want to make sure your backups are spread across different services.
Makes perfect sense.
And this question that's posed right here, Kelly, you've got some reasonings here as well. So you were saying there's some additional features here and some reasons that you liked these backups better than, remember the desktop backups that we were doing in QuickBooks Desktop for years and years and years?
Yeah.
And you'd have to do a full restore, go back to point.
Right, and decide which was the lesser of the two evils.
Uh-huh.
All the changes or the new data you were going to lose. Yeah, for sure.
Which is one of these things I want to point out. So thinking about that really quick, if you're thinking about, okay, so you make a QuickBooks Desktop backup or you make a QuickBooks backup and then you go, okay, I want to go back. I want to restore back to. So you can go back to in a period of time and you can restore back to that data. But one of the things that's really unique and cool about Rewind is you can do transactional backup. So you can say, I want you to rewind that transaction. And so, that's one of those really cool things that Kelly, you have a lot of experience about. Some of the scenarios that you say unwanted changes.
Yeah.
So,
so I had the one example, and I haven't had to use it a lot, but every time I have to use it, it's really saved my bacon. So the one was, we have a car wash that's growing like nobody's business, and keeping up with the processes and the new POSs and how to get the daily sales in. We were scrambling to try and keep up with the growth of her business. And so we made some oops. And one of them was on she integrated, she's great in her QBO file. So I'm not slagging her at all. She's an awesome client, but she decided to integrate a POS system and then automate. Is
this the high volume sales client?
Yep. And then,
okay.
Yeah. And because she's got 3 locations. They've got a couple of POSs each. And then she integrated one of the POS guys convinced her that was going to be a great idea. And then she auto added. And then, those all came in, but it wasn't actually a correct information dump. And in the meantime, we were still doing daily sales receipts. So the whole process, of course, trying to get all of it right and trying to decide what was the accurate information. So it came down to getting rid of some of those daily sales receipts. And then anyways, of course I made it a long story. It's my specialty, right? But pulling that back out. But then pulling it out transactionally was awesome because we could make the decision whether we were going to pull those sales out of the POS integration or whether we were going to pull them out of the daily sales receipts. And so we could make a decision and go transactional. But just this week, I have a client in an audit position. It's a rescue file. It is brand new that I am doing the work in this file. And he filed for an HST refund. So of course, there's an audit on it. But in the meantime, some changes got made to the file and the HST that he filed wasn't going to match the HST in his books any longer. So I could go back in, look at the various dates and figure out, I had some amounts that I was working with. I had a pretty good idea what the transactions were. So long story short, saved our bacon. And I posted in one of the things, I don't know where, and I did sort of paraphrase because he didn't use these exact words, but he did say, hey, Cal, your backup app is awesome. You are worth more than your money or something. Of course, he used more excited words that I can't say here. He was so excited about the backup app because I did say to him, hey, it's not me that did that. But so talk about value add, right? Because it would have taken forever to track, down what that was. But then to restore these changes was not going to be any fun at all.
That was what I was just thinking. It was like, okay, so, I mean, it's the time of your life that you just got back.
Yep.
It's the hours and hours and hours of combing through the data, going exactly where did that go wrong?
Yeah, because as nice as it is to have an audit log, there's two problems with the audit log in QBO. I can't filter by the same transaction level that I can. Well, there's three. I don't love it. Like I love the rewind interface, but also I call audit trail in a transaction in Hotel California. So you have to be very mindful to duplicate a transaction in another tab before you open the audit trail, because as soon as you're in the audit log, you can't get out. You're like playing whack-a-mole. You're only going between the audit log and the transaction, and the audit log of the transaction. In Rewind, you can see some of that data. You view the versions, I think it's called. Well, it is called that. And there's all the versions for me without getting into the Hotel California of audit log.
Yes.
Audit trail. Audit log's fine. Audit trail.
So Mike, I think that whenever we do the demo later, I think that that's definitely something we want to look at, is the audit log. So we want to see that. And then I'm going to back this up because there's a couple of questions that are happening right now in our chat, and I want to make sure that this is really, really clear. So I'm going back to our rewind point. So we have a couple of different options. We can rewind, and go back to a prior version of the data to do a full rewind, or we can do transactional rewind, which means we can undo some unwanted changes. We can recover some deleted transactions.
Yes.
So if there's some transactions that we go, I wish that those had not been deleted,
right,
we can actually go back and restore those.
That was the case yesterday for me.
And then the other thing that we
Which
can
you can't do it. You can't do that in QBO. It's
right.
gone, it's gone.
That, so that's like huge for us, because that happens.
That was yesterday.
And then the other thing is that we can actually go through and we can specify a date range, and then also select the vertical. So, so we have several different ways that we can work with the transactions and just change or rewind, go back on a transactional base and not change the rest of the data. So new transactions stay the same.
That's right.
It's like a magic wand. It's like another magic wand, right? I love this so much, and I wish, it's so powerful, because this happens in daily life with a lot of our clients where they do something they shouldn't have done, and you had to make that choice. Do I back it up and then re-enter all this data? And now we don't have to do that, which is just amazing.
Yes. Yep, I agree. And then Tiffany's asking us, can you back up the data and restore it into a new QBO file? So I have this scenario all the time, because as a integration specialist, one of the things that I'm constantly doing is I'll have somebody come to me and say, hey, will this app, sometimes it's an app series work. And so suite of apps. And so I'll have to say, okay, well, I need to test that. And so I'll take the data, I'll put it in a new QBO file, and then I'll test those apps. So Mike, do you want to answer that question? Can I?
Yeah, so we've had that question a lot. We certainly had it a lot in Shopify as well, and BigCommerce. And we've just launched that capability. So it's in kind of like a hidden test state. So you'll see it in the demo that I'm giving. If you logged into Rewind and you're not seeing it, don't worry, we can give you access to it. So just if you'd like to help us test it, you can email help@rewind.io, and I'll show you how to do that. And just say, hey, can you guys add me to the beta for copying data? And then as we get more confident in that, we'll take it out of beta. We'll open it up to everybody.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to say, yes, add me into the beta.
Yeah,
that's a big thing of what I do. So without any further delay, I'm going to toast that we're happy that you're here. And that we're happy that we have an option, and we love all these features that you're bringing to us. So we're raising a toast to Rewind. And if you're curious what our drink is, it's called the Rewinder. And this has probably got more ingredients than any other drink that we've had on the show so far. And this is probably the only second cocktail that we've ever had that has jalapenos in it. which, if you know me, I am a huge hot and spicy fan. So you got me at the jalapenos.
All right, so cheers to Rewind.
Cheers. Woo! Taste it.
Mm.
All right, so I'm going to say, Mike, I'm gonna let you just take it away.
Sure. I mean, I've done, so we've talked about this a little bit, right? Which is, so why, I think the immediate question that we get a lot is even why is Rewind or ChronoBooks even needed at all, right? I mean, you're in QuickBooks Online, your data's in the cloud, Gmail, Google, Office 365, all that stuff's in the cloud. Why do you even need to back it up? And if the screenshot that we've got here is from QuickBooks support document. It says, does QuickBooks back up my data? And they say, yeah, we back up your data. So in addition to always maintaining 2 copies, we automatically back up your updated data every day. It's stored on firewall protected, redundant servers, so your data is safe from hardware and software, failures, hackers, and viruses. And there's this little note at the end that I find kind of strange because, it says, because we update your records with every change, we cannot restore your file to a previous point in time, which seems kind of ironic that the answer to a QuickBooks, does QuickBooks back up my file, says that we cannot restore your file to a previous point in time, which is really the only thing that you would want a backup to do, is to restore your file to a previous point in time. So what QuickBooks has is really best described as a copy of your data. And if something happens to the entire QuickBooks service, like the whole thing, they'll be able to recover that data. So they do have a copy of it. They have a copy of everyone's data, and it's at this sort of QuickBooks Online level, right? And what they don't do is allow you to go into those backups and pick out the 1 or 2 things that you need from your own QuickBooks files, the ones that you're managing. And that's basically what Rewind does, is it provides file level backups for all of your clients, whereas QuickBooks Online has a backup for the entire system. And that's, I think, really important to understand the difference between what we do and what they do. And what, why ChronoBooks or Rewind was really needed. And I should point out that this is not a QuickBooks Online deficiency. This is really the case with most SaaS businesses. So we've already talked about Google and Office 365. If you're thinking Xero would be a better option, it has the same problem as well. Shopify, BigCommerce, we talked about Trello, Monday, Asana. Most cloud services actually have this problem that when you delete something, it's gone. It's gone immediately, and there's no way to undo that deletion. And we have no plans to sell to Intuit, so you're safe.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because one of the things that is worth sharing is one of the things that we've talked about before on Appy Hour is the Intuit contract that you sign. And so whenever you are agreeing to the subscription, you're actually saying that you're responsible for your own backups. And so to your point, you're actually saying, I'm going to have a backup of my data. And so let me just pull that up and just share that really quick. And so right here, Intuit terms of services, right here. If you come over here and you look at it, so am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, making sure. So archive your contact frequently. You're responsible for any lost or unrecoverable content. So that's, as a user of the product, that is our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that we are agreeing to. So I thought that was kind of, worthy of sharing as you were talking.
Yeah, most people don't notice or sort of know that, right? They read that question, which I find the answer to that question is a little bit disingenuous, where they say, do you back up my data? And the answer is yes. So there is technically a backup of the data. There's a copy of the data. But I think the reason the question exists is because people are concerned about their own data. So Intuit would probably be a bit in my mind, would be a bit better if they were a bit more transparent there around like, yeah, we have a copy of your data, and if something happens to the whole thing, but still, as you pointed out, in terms of service, you're responsible for it, and here's some apps that you could use to make sure that you're not going to get lost without it.
Exactly.
So this one, so what do we see causing data problems? So Kelly described a couple of them earlier, right? So human error definitely plays a part. Heather had that same sort of issue, right, with just accidentally deleting the wrong thing. App integrations is another one. So there was an issue a couple of years ago with HubDoc, for instance, where they deleted a whole bunch of attachments from transactions as well. So we see that sometimes causing problems, those app integrations. Generally, anything where you are writing data, an app is writing data into your QuickBooks Online account, you should be very, very careful before you install that application that you're very confident in it. So Liz, you were talking earlier about testing apps, always a good idea. As soon as those apps have the ability to write into your account, they've got the ability to cause a lot of problems. And so, those app integrations, certainly one spot. And then not so much in QBO, I don't think, but in other platforms, we certainly see CSV imports causing problems. And so if you've ever had to use a CSV file and worry about how it's encoded or anything like that, but stuff that regular humans shouldn't have to care about, those often cause problems on some of the other platforms that we back up. But from our perspective, we've been at this for 4 years, and we've seen pretty much everything I think you can see in terms of problems that are caused. So those three sum it up, but I can share some stories for sure. This sort of gives you an overview of what's covered by Rewind and what's covered by the platform, in this case by QuickBooks Online, right? So the unlikely events of a meteorite landing on their servers, or a fire in their server room, or a data breach or something like that, they'll be able to recover their data completely. And then the things that are a bit more likely in terms of human error, third-party apps, malicious data, maybe some people here have stories. We haven't seen that too much in QuickBooks so far, which has been good, but certainly on some of the other platforms, we've seen people purposely going in into online accounts and causing problems. And I'd sort of expect that to increase over the next few years, to be honest with you. And again, CSV imports. So we talked about all this in terms of the likelihood that that the problems are going to happen, and that individual stuff is what Rewind is covering you with. Just we've got a whole bunch of examples. So this is a good one, right? With Lynn from Healthy Books, that had an inventory management app that that accidentally, unfortunately, didn't actually exist, but $9 billion worth of inventory data, and that error was left unchecked for 4 weeks, and then she had to spend 15 hours cleaning it up. So unfortunately, she didn't have Rewind up to that point. But like we talked about earlier, the nice thing about Rewind is that had she been able to identify just the transactions or just the updates that caused that problem, she would have been able to rewind just that, and the other 4 weeks of work, she wouldn't have lost all of that work. She would have been able to keep that work and just undo the specific items that were causing that $9 billion worth of inventory data.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That would be a big chunk of work.
It
comes back to time, right? It comes back to like, where do you want to be spending your time? Do you want to be spending your time undoing problems that other things or people are causing you, or would you rather be spending it trying to either find new clients or work on the problems that your existing clients have, as opposed to fixing one for one client?
Or hang out with our dogs.
Yeah, or your cats.
Or your cats. Yep, our office animals.
So it's just sort of summarizing that, right? So any app that's importing large sets of data into your QBO account can cause problems. And just on that note, right, it really is important that before you install an app, I can't stress this enough, but just do a little bit of basic research on the app before you set it up. Make sure that it's doing what it says it should do. You know, do they have a 1-800 number? My co-founder gives a really good example of, you know, is the copyright on their website updated to 2020, which is a good one to check right now. So if the copyright on a website right now says 2018, probably not the best app to be installing, right? If they've got a phone number on it, what happens when you call it? Do you talk to a person? Just little things you can do to make sure that the apps that you're installing are not going to cause major problems, right? All the apps that are in the Intuit App Store, including Rewin, go through a security review from Intuit before they're added into the App Store. So there is some basic review that's happened, but those apps are hosted in the cloud and they can be updated at any time. So when we update our software for Rewin, we don't have to go through a recertification process with Intuit. So just as a best practice, make sure that, you know, the company that you're dealing with or these apps that you're dealing with are real companies. You can talk to them. You know, you're not installing an app that may be unreliable or maybe something that is going to cause you problems in the future. Because any app that can input data, it can cause problems really quickly.
Wow, I don't know. We just had some people in chat, Catherine, saying that she had an entire year's worth of transactions that she's had to go through and delete because her and the client were both entering data. And so she's saying, wish she had Rewin.
Well, I just had a client myself where we implemented an app and something went wrong with the integration and it imported the customer list 3 times. So we had to back up the data and re-enter our data for about 3 weeks. So that was time consuming as well. So I wish I had Rewin for that particular company as well, because that would have been awesome.
And you know, Heather and I constantly are talking about the very thing that you started off saying is just verify that these apps are doing the things that they say that they're doing. And so, you know, that's really important. The first time that you're utilizing an app, testing it and trying it out, which is exactly the whole reason that I do a test environment, is that a lot of these apps sound really, really great. And then you go to test them and you're like, And so maybe the mapping isn't always exactly what you expected. Right. And the results are not what's intended. And so being able to have a restore point is really important.
I'm just going to throw in that as soon as, and I can't remember when it was, there was a product called Safety Net, and from Jobber. And so I put Safety Net on my client files whenever it first came out, or whatever the timing was. Hard to remember, but 2012, 14, that whole crazy time. And so, but I never quite understood it. I did test drive it, but I didn't really know what was going to happen. And it was a timeline thing. Did any of you guys see Safety Net? Ever use it?
Yeah, but I agree with you. It wasn't really user friendly. So, I didn't understand what was going to happen, but because backups have always meant so much to me, they were one of the things I first did when I was, had a prospective client, or I was just doing some consulting or whatever. One of the first things I did was an analysis on what they were doing to back up their data, and it was never good, right? I never saw a case where it was going okay. But so I felt like I had to have Safety Net along with a whole of auto emails, reports, all that kind of stuff. But as soon as I met the app, I went, oh, I get this one. Yeah.
I got it, and I got what it was going to do, which was really great.
Well, and that's nice to know. It's like you get what they're doing. And it sounds like we are like really excited about a demo.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I see George was asking, how do we keep up with all the new coding changes? So this gives you a sense. So unlike Chronobooks, was really just one person. So Nate, who did a great job, was working on Chronobooks. So I think he, was obviously having a hard time keeping up with all the changes in QBO because there are quite a lot of them. We're a team of 28 people. Actually, we're currently about 31. and growing quickly. So like I said, we're one of the fastest growing companies in the country. We're certainly the fastest growing company in Ottawa. And so, that's really how do we keep up with all the new coding changes. Is we've got an entire team that's dedicated to making sure that we stay up to date with what's going on in all the platforms that we back up, not just PBO. So that answers George's question. And Larry was asking what the cost is, and it's $5 per account per month. So $5 per file per month.
Awesome. So $5, that's super cheap, which that, I'm a big fan of Nate's. Nate's one of those people that early on I was introduced to him via Murph, and I've always been a fan of his. And I've loved what he was doing and creating. And so we're not really surprised that he got scooped up by Intuit. That's, it makes sense. But, for all of the rest of us who those clients that aren't in advance, it's like we are super thrilled that we have an alternative. So
it's always good to have options.
It is. And we're super thrilled that you're here. And we love it that you've got a big team to rely on. We love it that means that you're always staying up on everything that's happening. A bigger team is always a good thing.
Yeah. So, I'm happy to give you a demo. Do you want to?
Yes.
Let me share my screen.
I'm going to stop sharing because that's what we want.
Okay,
so let's log in. I'll give my shout out to 1Password, right, Kelly? Because 1Password's filling in my password for me. Right, so if you're not using a password manager, 1Password is the one to be using. Highly recommend it. This is Rewin. So just logged in here. You can see I've got the ability to link a new account. I've got my Shopify, some old MailChimp accounts here, my BigCommerce account, but I'll just go into my QuickBooks data. This fake company that we have does a lot of work for Walt Disney. We're big Disney fans here at Rewin, so we do a lot of work for Disney here. So this is what we call the vault. You can easily search through the vault. So if you want to see everything that's related to Disney, you can search and instantly find all the stuff that's related to Disney, any invoices that have been deleted or restored or updated, any customers, etc.
And then let me just say one thing that, so your backups stay in the vault, the Rewin vault.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Rewin Vault is, it's actually a bunch of different technologies, and it runs in 2 different locations throughout the world. So we've got a lot of fellow Canadians that are concerned about where their data is stored. So anyone, when you first install Rewin, you're actually able to pick, do you want your data stored in the US or do you want your data stored in Canada? And we do that for privacy and security reasons. So you're able to select where we're going to store your data. And that's really the only setting that you've got in Rewin. As you can see, there's no other settings that I can set up here. I've got this little button, Backup Now, in the top right-hand corner, which you can click at any time. But it really doesn't matter because every time you make a change, Rewin is detecting that change from QuickBooks perspective. So if I go into my vault and I find this Disney invoice and I click on View Versions, which is what Kelly was talking about earlier, you can see I've got the ability to compare just this one invoice from what's currently in QuickBooks on the left-hand side. So that's what's live, and the selected version that I've got. And you can see all the changes that we made. The 9th and 10th, we were in Toronto at QuickBooks Connect. So we've got a lot of changes that we were making at that point in time. You can see it's actually tracked to change earlier today. I'm going to go back to this one on January 3rd at 128, and you'll notice that the balance has changed from $508.50 to $101.70. So same invoice, everything else is the same, but somebody added in some items into this invoice. If you really want to get technical, I know some people have actually done this. You can go into what we call the source code view, and you can see the difference. So this balance of $101, and if you scroll down, you'll be able to see why, because our Mickey Mouse ears have changed from $450 to $90, and the quantity was changed from 10 to 2. So you can always go in and actually see all the details if you want. You're very technical, but most people I don't think are. So we sort of stick in this view. And you just click restore to that version, and it gives you a prompt, says you're about to restore that invoice back to $508, or the $508 for Disney back to the one for $101. And it might also affect any dependent accounts, classes, all these other things that it might do it. You sure you want to do that? We click yes. And it goes in and restores it. And that should just take a few seconds or two, and then it's done. So that's rewinding items one by one. If you know exactly what you want to rewind, you can go in, you can find it easily in the vault, and then restore just that one item. So when we rewound that one item, it didn't affect anything else in the file. So if there were other things that had happened after that invoice, nothing would have changed at all. And if we go in to view the versions, let's just see. So the live one now says $101.70. And now you can see the previous version is the one was $508.50. So you can go back and forth from them.
Super cool. Super cool.
So that's one by one. And then the next thing you might want to do is say, okay, well, I need to restore advanced items, right? So I've got a bunch of journal entries that I entered in that I want to restore back to the way they were at a previous point in time. So you say, I know I messed up my journal entries, but since then, a bunch of other things have happened. A bunch of invoices have been paid. Some bills have come in. Some employees' data has been changed. All the other stuff is not going to change. You just pick journal entries and say, I want those back to the way they were on Sunday at 12 a.m. That's fine. And then you go and you restore those items, and that'll restore just your journal entries back to the way they were on January 19th at 12 in the morning. And you can pick multiple items. You can pick, an estimate and an invoice in your journal entries or whatever you want. And then the other one is just, you know what? I don't know what happened. Something's wrong with the whole file. I just need to restore everything back to the way it was. So give me everything back to the way it was January 20th. I know we were good at 6 p.m. So you can scroll through and find 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. And rewind it back to the way it was at 8 p.m.
Wow.
And so those are the three options for rewinding. You got your single item, your one type of item, or the whole thing. And then we're just working, like I said, so this might not show up for a lot of people, but if you'd like access to it, you can just hit this little chat button in the bottom right and say, hey, Kaylee or Annie, can I have access to the copy feature? And we'll give you access to it. And this will allow you to copy data from, so in this case, our Rewind demo data. And I don't have another QuickBooks account linked here. This demo is so new, I don't even have the whole thing set up. But if I had another account set up here, I'd be able to pick that one, and then we'd start the copying from one account to the other.
And then I've got a question here. So whenever I am doing exactly this scenario and I'm copying my destination, does that count and it's a $5, or is that one free because it's not being backed up?
So we're still trying to figure out the pricing for copy, to be honest with you. So we don't really know how to price this just yet because of what you just said. So we may, I guess we're looking for feedback from customers on how to price the copy feature, because it sometimes is a one-time copy where you just want to go from one to the other. And so we're still trying to figure out how to price that. So right now we're not charging for it. We're just looking for feedback on how are people using it.
So one thing I would say for myself as an app integration specialist, sometimes the only reason that I would connect would be to just make this one-time copy, and that would be my need for it.
Yeah.
And then what I do from that point on is then I say to my client, hey, now you are connected to this app. If you'd like to carry on indefinitely, you can pay for it if I'm not going to be doing reoccurring services for that client. If I am, then I'm going to take over that subscription fee.
Yep. Yeah, and so we've heard that use case before as well. So we'll have to figure out what works. But we're working through that, and right now we're just trying to make sure that when we're copying the data, we're getting the data exactly the way it was before as the copy happened.
Is payroll data coming over?
What
So QuickBooks doesn't make payroll data available, so we're not able to copy payroll data. Payroll is different from every country, so they don't have that. If you store payroll information in the employee section as notes on employees, that will be copied over, but the payroll itself to like execute and run the payroll will not.
Which that makes sense to us. So, and same thing with payments. So those are encrypted areas of QuickBooks that we really, I don't think we would want to have copied over. So the thing that would, and Heather even had this use case experience herself, is what happens is if something happens to your data file and the whole data file is wiped, if you backed up, then the payroll piece of it is actually sitting there separately. So even if you wiped out your data file, payroll is actually not wiped.
It's not. So you have access to the payroll feature, which is actually another app within QuickBooks Online. It's embedded. So what you would have to do is reach out to Intuit to have them load the transactions back in for your payroll, or you'd have to put them in yourself, depending on if you could get Intuit to backload your payroll transactions back into QuickBooks. But they do have the ability to do that.
And if you convert it over into another destination for some reason, if you were abandoning the data file and going to a different QBO data file, then we all know how to do the historical data of payroll. So you might need to do that. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, and if it becomes a problem, like we're always happy to work on improving the product. And I think it's just a matter of whether QuickBooks opens up access to payroll or not, which is the only thing that's stopping us from doing that.
Wait, go back. We want to look at it again. It's so pretty. Hold on.
Yeah, you know what? I will say, and I know I said it before, I really like the interface. I get it. I'm a super visual person, and one of the things that always matters to me is that the UI or the UX or the U whatever matches how I think and how I operate. It's something that I always tell people, just because a product has all the features you want, if it's a product you're going to be in there and using, make sure that it feels good to use as well. And that's what I was saying. I'm not slagging Safety Net. I just didn't understand the interface at all. This one I totally get. And it's the same. I don't particularly I love that there is an audit log in QBO. I don't particularly like the interface of it. I loved working in this interface when I was doing basically audit log stuff, trying to figure out a couple of these things that happened. So yeah, it's a great UI, UX, whatever.
Yeah, speaking of UIs, I mean, I want to know when I go into a new app, I want it to be clear what I'm supposed to do, because most of the user error that happens when somebody implements new technology is because it's not clear what they're supposed to be doing at each step in that implementation. So that's one of the grades that I give an app when I'm first evaluating it, is when I first log in, is it clear what I'm supposed to do next? Or do I have to kind of crash around and try and find out what the next step is? So it's very clear here what you're supposed to, what you can do and what you're supposed to be doing.
I agree.
I think we benefited from, starting on Shopify, because a lot of the merchants on Shopify are small business owners, right? They're like everybody in this room, really, who are, for the most part, individual merchants just trying to sell something. And so we've always had to build an application that was really usable by very non-technical people. And that's been the focus for us, is making sure that what we build is looks really good, works really well, and does exactly what it says it's supposed to be doing.
Nice.
So I really like this. And so this is your accountant dashboard. Is that what we're looking at right now?
Yes, this would be like one account, so we're looking at our QuickBooks account, and then you can link as many accounts as you want. So as you link multiple QuickBooks accounts, they're just going to show up down the left-hand side, and you'll see, like, I'll switch to the Shopify one just for a second. You can see it looks exactly the same, but this would be another QuickBooks account if you wanted, and here's another one. And you'd easily be able to go through all your QuickBooks accounts on the left-hand side.
Okay, and then I've got a question about backups. So when it backs up, it's backing up every single time that there's any change in the data, and then it does a full backup every 24 hours. Is that?
Yeah, it does actually do a backup every 24 hours, which is totally not needed. But it's it's our safety net, to be honest with you. Let's make sure that we've got everything. But generally those 24-hour backups don't pick up anything because QuickBooks is sending us stuff as it's changing.
Nice.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Mike has a question for you, Mike. Mike McClellan has a question for you. He wants to know if Rewin connects with Patriot Payroll. And then I want to know, are there any plans to connect to any payroll provider, or is that probably not going to happen just based on protecting personal information?
So what we need from the payroll provider is what's called an API that allows us to get the data from them. We have built integrations into some of the more popular applications like Shopify, QuickBooks, MailChimp, BigCommerce, and we're talking about doing Trello and others next. For smaller providers, we're actually working on the reverse system where they would be able to send the data to us instead. So they would write an integration into Rewin. So there's some that are just too small for us, and those ones would probably fit into that. And so if they were interested in backing their data up for their customers into Rewin, we're actually working on a system that allow them to do that, and that should be launched in the next couple of months.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, great.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And then I'm going to see, look at these familiar faces. We know them. So both Jeannie Whitehouse and both Alicia Pollock, these are both users that are our peers. They've been using Rewin for a while. And Kelly would be up there, except for she's joined us today. So aren't we lucky? And then you have a Pro Advisor program. So if you want to join the Pro Advisor program, you've got the link here to do that.
Yep, so you can go there and similar to Nate from a pricing perspective, so for all the Pro Advisors, we'll back up your one account at no charge. So you can simply email our help team at help@rewin.io, or you can fill in that little bubble that I clicked on. Tell us you're a Pro Advisor and we'll match Nate's pricing for that. So you can go there and get more details on that.
Okay, fantastic. So let me go ahead and say this again. So we can do accountants get the $5 pricing, but we do need to reach out to you and tell you that we are Pro Advisors. And then if we're like myself, and sometimes I just do integrations for my clients and then I pass it off to them and they can pay for their own backups, what would that be for them per month?
So that'd be $10 for them. And you don't need to reach out. As soon as you've got more than 2 accounts listed, we're charging you $5 per account. So if you're only contacting us from a pricing perspective, you don't need to, but contact us if you're a Pro Advisor. We'll give you your account for free. And then anyone who's got more than 2 accounts, it's $5 per account per month, and the retail price is $10 per account per month. So your clients will spend $10 if they sign up on their own.
Awesome.
I have a quick poll before we end, Liz. Just
okay.
A poll that we normally do. If you would like someone from Rewin to reach out to you with more information, just go ahead and click on that lovely yes, and I will forward your email information along to Mike and his team, and someone can reach out to you with more information. So, wow, what a response. Oh my goodness. That's the best response we've ever had, Liz.
That's awesome. I think that people were hungry for this.
Yeah,
and I mean, so many of us are QBO users. Some of us are Xero users. So Mike, I don't know if you saw it in chat, but there was a question about Xero.
Yeah, so Xero's on our list. So we know the guys at HubDoc quite well, actually. So I'm talking to Jamie McDonald, and it's on our list. There's some technical challenges on why we did QuickBooks first. Xero is actually more popular for e-commerce people than QuickBooks is. So we actually should have started there, to be honest, based on our own customers, but there's some technical challenge we have to get over with them. But we're talking to them and it's on our list of potential platforms.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I will forward that along to you later today, Mike.
Mike, thank you so much for being on today. We're going to do the coolest thing that we do this week. So those of you who want to stay on and see that, but we are very grateful that this was really quick notice to all of us pro advisors to have this super short, oh my gosh, what do we do? And we're excited. We're thrilled for Nate. We just, as pro advisors, we kind of felt a little panicky. So this is a great option. I'm more than thrilled with our.
I'm more than thrilled too.
The go back per transaction. I'm digging it.
I'm thrilled. This is definitely going to be one of the most valuable tools in my toolbox.
I agree. I agree. Okay. All right. You ready for the coolest thing?
Yeah. So I just want to say a big thank you again to Mike and Kelly for those that need to jump off because it is the top of the hour. So Kelly, I love you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God.
Good to see you guys.
And thank you, Mike. Really
welcome.
It. So
thank you.
All right, so let's do the coolest thing.
Okay, all right. So we'll move through these things because these are always fun little tips.
Yes.
You know, it's stuff that we found that's fun. It's stuff that we found that's useful. So coolest thing this week. So Windows shortcuts.
Yes.
So what did we find? So Heather found this little Windows shortcut clipboard. So being able to Windows V, what does that do? It opens up your clipboard and you're able to see your entire clipboard history. So everything that you have copied. So you've done a Control-C maybe.
It's amazing. So life-changing. And it doesn't keep your whole history, but it keeps probably about 30 to 40 entries. I never counted.
Which is a lot.
It is a lot. So, you know, Kelly, Liz, you and I all do a lot of content creation. And we're also doing a lot of data entry. And so, so it's nice to be able to copy and then go back and be able to paste the same memo over and over again without going copy paste, especially in Excel, right? Once you
agree.
Once, it won't paste again, so you can just hit that little Windows button in the V and then select the data that you want to paste into the cell. So it's a huge time saver.
That is super cool.
Right?
Oh, isn't it? So you turn it on, you just do the Windows V and you'll get this little, oh, you can't show your history because you got to turn it on.
It is. And you do have to turn it on, so the instructions are right here. So
and you can, like, I got the little instructions right here, and so you can do it with the instructions, or you can just say okay, and that's it.
It is a little life-changing. And I know a few episodes ago, maybe 6 months ago, I showed an app that does this, but you don't need an app. You can just use Windows. The only thing to be careful of is that it does copy passwords, so make sure you got virus and a firewall and all that other good stuff. Because the Windows feature doesn't discriminate. If you type in your password, or you copy your password, it's going to copy it.
Yeah, that's a good thing to pay attention to. All right, and then we also have the Windows emojis. So Windows period will do all of your little emojis, and they'll all pop up.
Yes, I was so excited. I was able to put emojis in my Twitter handle.
Isn't that fun? And then I found this little shortcut right here, and it's got Control all the way through Z.
That's beautiful, Liz.
I know. Isn't that awesome?
I want that. That's gorgeous.
I love this. So I gave credit to the guy who did this. Turbo Future. Well done.
Wow.
Okay, so cool stuff is coming up. So accountants plus apps equals wins. We love our new website, but we have Arrow next week. So Laura Redmond is going to be joining us and automating your internal workflow for our processes, talking about the difference between CRM and workflow, because isn't that sometimes kind of where does the end and the beginning of those two apps?
And Laura's so fantastic.
Amazing.
She's amazing.
And a really good dancer. Not that we're been to after parties.
She's just an amazing person.
Yeah,
she's
really
got moves though. I do have to agree. The first time that I saw her like kind of dance, I was like, wow, what can she not do?
Right, there's that.
We need to do some Mac tricks. And what I'm going to say to you, Kat, is that I am not a Mac person and neither is Liz.
No.
But we would love to have you on Appy Hour for our coolest thing. And you could share maybe some of your favorite Mac tips with our Mac users. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me, and we'll get you on.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And Kat, yes, Mac stuff too.
Yeah, let's do it. We're gonna do
Okay.
Mac tricks.
All in.
Yep.
And another amazing episode of Happy Hour. I feel like this is really useful information, and I like this option.
I like this too, and we will be sharing this video out on Facebook. Please share it with your friends and your followers. We'll also be uploading the video to our website, so you'll be able to find it there, and it will be on our YouTube channel. So spread the news, because I know a lot of people are kind of stuck and going, what do I do now? So, you know, let's spread the word. Let people know they don't have to panic, that not only there's another alternative, but there's like an amazing alternative.
Right.
So also a huge thank you to our partners at Right Networks for being our champagne level sponsor for 2020. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yep.
So thanks
Talking
everybody.
about workflow.
Thanks again, Kelly.
See you all soon.
Bye-bye.